All right. We were talking about securing virtual systems because we talked about securing our servers, securing our normal host devices, securing our mobile devices. We cannot neglect the fact that nowadays many entities have virtualized systems. So how do we secure a virtualized system? I was saying make sure that we avoid what I call a VM sprawl, ensure that every virtual asset has an owner, delete the provisions VM. If I have any VM that's running a critical workload, I should make sure it has adequate resources. And of course, if I have some sensitive like PII on them, make sure that I'm in compliance with the requirements of the wherever jurisdiction I am. What about specialized and legacy systems? The problem with legacy systems is many of them don't have recent updates or patches that are being released. So the whole idea is to try and maybe limit their contact with our regular systems. Make sure that when that process critical devices that are reliable, they have reliable power. If I don't have regular users, make sure that I check it regularly for issues if I'm not using it all the time, right? Apply additional monitoring to the legacy or static devices. We usually call those the compensatory controls. So make sure you harden your industrial control systems, your SCADA, and your IoT devices. We call ISCS and SCADA now OT or operational technology, right? All right. So continuing now on, just want to make sure I've covered jailbreaking. Great. All right. How about our peripheral devices? Peripheral devices, remember those are devices that are not part of our system that are attached like printers. It just says you should control what peripherals can be attached to the workstation and disable access to like external ports. Here, it's critical to understand the difference between like an SD card and a USB device. An SD card, some of them have a built-in Wi-Fi adapter, which means you can have potential problems. So digital cameras, of course, they can be used to take pictures of sensitive information. Even wireless keyboards and mice can be used, can be spied on. So just be careful what you are using in your system and make sure that you've applied the applicable security controls. Again, for the applications, we made sure that we talked about you can have a white list or black list, allow list, block list. But always install according to the licensing agreement. Configure the AAA to apply. Ensure that third-party software receive regular updates. Decommissioning of systems, which is part of good security measures. You're not using it anymore. Why is this still there? Right? So, but just ensure that the system's useful workloads and data are migrated to an appropriate location and document it. Storage media, make sure they're sanitized or destroyed. We went over that in the previous chapter. Securely repurpose or recycle the hardware if it's necessary. And make sure you have, obviously, you do this in compliance with regulation. And if it's a government stuff that requires that before you decommission a hard drive, write it over so many times with zeros and then degauss or whatever the process is, make sure you've applied it. There's a lab exercise on creating security template, and of course, another one on enforcing a security template. If you're taking this for the class, check out the exercise and send me any question. A few review questions. Look at this question here. This would be more like a performance-oriented question, not just A, B, C, D, or rote learning. Several recent security incidents were caused by system configurations being changed away from the approved baseline. Which of the following solutions will do the least to prevent it? Choose the appropriate response. So configuration management enables us obviously to check what is happening in our system, endpoint detection and response is good, file monitoring. So that's why D is not going to be something that's going to really help for here. Monitoring access management. Somebody already changed it, so this D is the right answer. A company configures workstation only to run software on an approved list. We'll be talking about this a lot. Approved list. What is this an example of? Approved list, right? Meaning allow list. What is the most popular way to add improved security to the Linux kernel? We talked about it as relates to even Android 5.0. This is this security enhanced Linux. What security feature makes it more difficult? You should really say most difficult, but let's say more difficult for an attacker to trick you into installing a fraudulent Ethernet driver that reports on your network activity, like spying on you, right? So choose the best response. So it's a code signing because I will now know that the certificate authority has trusted the person and it's been signed. Remember, it doesn't guarantee that it doesn't have any bugs. It just means that the person that created it is saying that there's no bugs in it. What potential securities does an SD card pose that a USB flash drive does not pose? This is very good, right? Choose the best response. Both of them are potentials for data exfiltration, right? But the issue is that because the SD card could have Wi-Fi, then it's a wireless issue here. All right, module B, mobile security. Let's look at, because mobile devices, you hear the big English, ubiquitous, everywhere. So let's look at the risk associated with them. How do we decide the appropriate deployment module? And how do we harden mobile devices and operating systems? We talked about rooting already before, or jailbreaking. So if you root the device or you jailbreak, it allows you to install unapproved software normally, right? Or untrusted custom firmware. This is very dangerous. But just because you didn't jailbreak the device doesn't mean that the device is safe, right? But just understand that you need to control it. There's always a debate whether iPhones as opposed to Android devices are safer. It's just that Android devices, it says gives the manufacturers and the carriers a lot of leeway for software modification, and you tend to have more software available for Android devices. But both of them should have security enabled. These are the four general ways that mobile devices can connect to the internet: Wi-Fi, cellular, Bluetooth, and of course, USB. But many organizations implement one of these four as to how you can use mobile devices. The corporate-owned, business only. That's only, you can only use it for business purposes. Corporate-owned, personally enable the COOP, right? The company issues and supports it, but you can also use them for personal use. Of course, the most popular one is the BYOD. You use your own personal device for work purposes or within the company network. And of course, you see the CYOD, which is part of BYOD. It's just that you choose between a list of devices that the company has approved. For example, you cannot choose Huawei devices as of 2025 if you're working in that US government establishment because they believe that the Chinese may have compromised it. Different countries have different rules, but just know these four types. You're almost guaranteed to have at least one question on this. And how do we manage our mobile devices? We need to have some kind of policies that has to do with what are permitted modules and features, security baseline, onboarding, offboarding of the devices, acceptable use policies, network access, ownership of the device, apps, and data. This is very important because if you're using your own personal device and you're doing company work, the company might have a right to examine that device. And God forbid you have some sensitive personal stuff you don't want them to see. But just be aware of that, right? Monitoring of such mobile devices and their communication for employee-owned devices, that's what I'm talking about. And of course, regulatory requirements and legal liability. MDM profiles, right? So the important elements or features of the typical MDM includes how do you enroll devices, installing certificates, controlling the applications, password policies, MFA, patch management, and remote management of the devices from a centralized location, like sending signals to remotely wipe the data off there if it's stolen. Just be aware. right? Those are some policies or something that the typical MDM should have. So how do we enforce mobile device policies? Yeah, the whole idea is maybe I'm trying to circumvent existing security controls. Just want to make sure that I can prevent people from doing that, enforce use of unauthorized software, right? Make sure that I don't have unpatched software, how other unauthorized network connections. How do I use cameras or microphones and even geolocation or tagging features? Use of mobile devices for data exfiltration, stealing of devices, and of course, even payment systems, unauthorized payment systems. Some companies might not want you to do that, whether they're concerned about what you're doing, right? So think about it. How strong do you want the policies to be? You have a discussion with your group. What kind of policies do you want? Because you want employees to be able to use the kind of mobile devices that they want. So we're always balancing security and usability. It's a major issue for security personnel, right? Mobile device security features, many of them are shipped normally with some features you can configure even if you're not using an MDM solution. Some of them include how to authenticate, data protection, and then of course application protection. So besides this, we'll talk about mobile authentication. This is considered the first line of defense. Maybe screen lock, use a PIN or biometrics like facial or fingerprint. It just says you have to allow temporary access for users. You can allow access to a single app without unlocking or mark some apps as requiring additional authentication. Geofencing is pretty good for applications to decide like a particular geographic location and then use that location data to determine whether it is inside that particular fence. You can use it for authentication and also authorization as part of the AAA process, right? These are the different options for locking your screen. Maybe after many failed attempts, like on my iPhone, after my son likes to play with it, after so many attempts, I have to wait like after 5 attempts, I have to wait like 5 minutes or 10 minutes for it to be enabled. But you can also add widgets. This is a cool feature where you can take a photo of anyone entering the wrong code. I rarely see people doing that, but it's available now. So many mobile devices has ways to protect the data, like again, remote backup or say also remote wipe. But you can also have what's called storage segmentation. Maybe you separate your personal data from your work data, and you have file-based encryption, full device encryption, and then micro SD hardware security modules. Depends on your device, but just understand there are different ways to protect data on your mobile device. For the application, we have the same allow list, whitelist on here. Some secrets, encryption password, push notification, permission, and then containerization. Again, think about it. If I'm trying to secure mobile data and applications, what is the best option that I should use? Now, WhatsApp has a feature where some chats can be secured and protected by a password. Review questions. What kind of application centrally manages security policies on all company mobile devices? A question like this, I see it as a low-hanging fruit for you in the exam. Centrally manages. So if you see this, you should be able to answer it quickly and move into the more difficult ones, like in the Security Plus, the lab ones where you have to configure devices. So this is MDM. What are essential security steps on all mobile devices? Select all that apply. This one is a little confusing. You might want to even argue about it, but it says essential security steps on all mobile devices. So configure remote backup features, regularly apply operating systems updates. Now, you might want to argue using biometric authentication. Why is that not an essential security step when we say that is the first line of defense? If I was writing this question, I wouldn't put it this way. But most people don't have firewall app in, so let's eliminate C. I have antivirus software. I have Malwarebytes on my cell phones, right? On my smartphones. but it's not maybe essential for most people. So that's why they're telling you that B and D might be. But you might want to argue about E. But some people don't even put biometric, they just use a PIN or something. All right. Your company allows you to use the same smartphone for both personal and work purposes. So you automatically know that it's not COBO probably, right? But only if it's one of a half dozen different modules on an approved list. So it's not BYOD. If you don't have an approved device, the company will pay for part of your upgrade. What kind of deployment module does this company use? Choose the best response. So we already got rid of BYOD, right? We already got rid of COBO. So we're now left with C and D, and D is the correct answer. What kind of policy governs the removal of sensitive data and credentials when a user device is no longer used for company business? So this should be, okay, you're no longer using, how am I going to now prevent, am I going to remove that item? So you're thinking about removing something. So clearly it's offboarding. What mobile features poses the greatest security risk on cellular connected devices in particular? Check that part. Don't miss that part. Cellular connected devices. Choose the best response, because you'll be thinking, oh, it's jailbreaking, which notification? But this one is tethering. That's another way to connect there, right? So that's why tethering is there. So in summary, this video might be divided into two parts. I'm going to try and combine it. Hopefully now you know how to secure host and device through system hardening, secure baseline, and finally deploy mobile devices in your enterprise, your organization, in a secure way. Send me any questions, like this video, or please, I wish you good luck in your exam. Security Plus is one of the DoD 8140 and 8570 standard for working in U.S. government systems. So next I will try and cover chapter 12, trying to do them in sequence, but you can always watch them. The later chapters can be watched in different sequence, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do one or the other, but it's good to do the introductory ones first. Good luck on the exam and your cybersecurity career.